Okay, good morning everyone. You're very welcome to this session. My name is Ellen Breen and I'm from DCU Library. We have 3 10-minute presentations and we're going to hear from each speaker in the first instance and then we'll have questions and answers afterwards. So I'm delighted to welcome our first presenter. It's Jessie Waters, who's the Librarian for Student Success at the Glucksman Library at the University of Limerick. And Jessie's going to talk to us about student peer advisors. So you're very welcome, Jessie.
Thanks, Ellen. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well today, all nice and fresh. Thanks for joining us. So my name is indeed Jessie Waters. My role is Librarian for Student Engagement, and I'm talking to you, or coming today from Limerick, from University of Limerick, by way of Trinity a few years ago as well, so I've been around a few different locations. So today I'm going to talk to you about our Student Peer Advisor service. So these are a team of current students who work in the library at UL. So this is some of the previous team. So they just finished up work with us there 2 weeks ago. So I have the summer free from student activity, but I'm currently recruiting for our September batch at the moment. So to apply, they need to be current UL students for the entire academic year. The roles are open to undergraduate students from second year onwards and postgraduate students at master's or PhD level, but provided that they have experience of being a UL student. So incoming postgraduate students or master's students from other institutions, they wouldn't be considered because they don't have that experiential knowledge of being UL students, and that's an integral part of the role. And obviously they are peer supports, so they need to know their stuff about UL, the library, and even Limerick in some instances. So they're representative of all 4 UL faculties. So those faculties are Arts, Humanities, Social Sciences, Education and Health Sciences, Science and Engineering, and the Chemie Business School. So we try to have a pretty good mix across all 4 faculties. Some years we will get it, some years we won't get all 4, but it's what we aim for. I think this year we did actually have somebody from each of those faculties, so it's a pretty good mix there. When we're recruiting, what I look for what's the most important thing to me is that they're friendly students, that they're outgoing, that they're going to recognise students who may need a hand. You know, if someone comes into the library and they do a U-turn and go to leave, that they will reach out and ask, does someone need assistance? And generally we are quite successful in our recruiting. The students tend to get a lot of feedback, and sometimes, or we'll go through some of that later on. So the service has been operating since 2010. I joined the library at the Glucksman in UL in 2018. So I've been overseeing the service for the last going on 4 years now. And it's one of the most enjoyable aspects of my role. And the role of student engagement it's quite varied. It's an interesting role as it is, but I really enjoy working with the students every year. It keeps things quite fresh. And you meet some really nice students as well, and they go on to do some fantastic things. So, for example, we'll call him one of my favourite peer advisors over the last 4 years. I hired him in 2018. He's just finishing up as the student welfare officer in the Students' Union at Limerick. Me and him had a very good relationship, but he always said it, particularly when he was leaving, you know, that the skills that he learned from being a peer advisor really helped him to kind of grow as a student, to build confidence, and it was instrumental in him having a desire to actually run for the welfare officer. So from his interactions with other students and as being a peer advisor, that, you know, shaped him, I suppose, to sound very cliche, but like, you know, he got something from it. And it's really nice to see the students, you know, grow into their roles and go on to do nice things. And just this week, I've had to give 3 references for our outgoing students, you know, and like, I'm not that far removed from second level education, and certainly from trying to get a professional job, you know, like this is my career, it's my vocation, I suppose you would say. And so like, you know, I know how much it means to have someone who's going to vouch for you and give a nice recommendation or fill out that reference. So like, it's really nice, it's heartwarming stuff to be able to do that for these students. So I suppose, what do the peer advisors do? So they deliver tours to students, to staff, and to visitors of the library occasionally. They answer and refer library queries, ITD queries, but we train them with a variety of other student supports in around August each year. So student support officers who would be embedded in each of the faculties, they'd be trained by academic registry staff. And this year I'm going to bring in a couple of colleagues from disability services as well and really branch it out and ensure that they have as comprehensive an overview of UL services as possible. This doesn't have to be in depth, but as long as you can pinpoint and signpost students to those services where necessary, that's the important thing, that they have an idea of what's going on in UL, that they're not going to give inaccurate or incorrect information, and that they know when they need to refer a query onwards, so be it to ITD, to library, to the first year support coordinator, whatever it is. They also provide support to us library staff to develop resources, raise awareness of events, and just promote things in general throughout the library, and assist us with other project work as it comes up. They provide us with content and ideas for social media. Generally, there will be one or two, maybe three or four, depending on the year, of students who I will manage to encourage to be at the forefront of the camera and take me out of the heat of that situation. Even though Louise is always trying to get me in front of the camera to try and highlight services or recruit students or something, but we always have a nice bunch and some of them are more than willing to jump in. And then we can use them to represent the library at events as well, like open days and orientation and anything else that comes up. And we're kind of known now at this stage as being successful in recruiting students, training students. So like marketing and communications, they will be in contact with me anytime they need students, and other various departments around the college. So we have a good reputation for training and hiring students at the moment. So just to give you an idea of kind of some of the queries, or no, the number of queries, not some of the queries, of the number of queries that they answer. So this year, 2021, has been our second busiest year to date. So I'm only capturing the queries in this case from 2018 when I overtook the role. But 2018 was our busiest year to date from 2010 onwards, and this was because our new library opened. So we had a huge spike in queries across the board this year because we opened a new library that was almost the same size as the library that we were in. So that was new to absolutely everybody. Oh, jeez, I'm way behind. So, okay, there we go. 2018, our busiest year. This year, 15,745. I'll just point out here as well that obviously we had a significant decrease in queries in 2020 as a result of COVID-19. Not going to go into detail on that, but since 2014, and I picked 2014 because that's when we started to capture these queries in this format, they've answered almost 75,000 queries, which is it's quite a significant number. And I would argue that a large portion of these queries wouldn't have made their way to the library information desk. These students are smack bang in your face when you enter the library building. So any query that pops into a student's head, they're going to ask the peer advisors. So the feedback that we get is, in general, overwhelmingly positive. There's always going to be one or two negative comments, and in general, I think you can put it down to stressed students because they generally come towards the end of the year when we have an influx of students who are probably undertaking exams, writing assignments, maybe forgot their ID card or something like that. But one that I would like to point out is this one at the bottom from Caelan, who's the current head of disability services. So, I already knew at the start of the year that this was a fantastic team of students that I had, just from my own interactions with them, but to have them validated from another staff member who has a very strong focus on student engagement, as Caelan does, it was really validating to myself. And it's not the fact that this came from someone who's working with disabled students or able-bodied students, that doesn't matter to me. It's the fact that she highlighted that they are a fantastic group and that they've gone above and beyond to help students regardless, because that's what they're there for. But just some context, actually, disability services share some space in the library, so their offices are located just behind Omar here on the right-hand side. It's not immediately visible, so students will always, or not always, but on occasion, talk to the peer advisors. And sometimes they might want to be discreet about their queries, and in general, they are accommodating. 1 minute, okay. We might go a little bit over, but we have plenty of time. So using queries to enhance the student experience. This was initially scheduled for 20 minutes apparently, but we're going with 10.
I think we're missing a speaker, so we said we'd be a little bit generous.
So we have wiggle room.
Way to go, Jess.
So, like, it's all well and good to get tens of thousands of queries, but like, if we don't address them and try and improve the services as a result of them, like, what's the point in capturing them? So these are just some examples, and like, some of these are ongoing projects. They're things that we'll address year on year. But obviously in 2018, for example, there was a massive spike in directional queries, so clearly we needed to improve the signage throughout the building. This was probably something that would have been done anyway, but at least with this number of queries, it gives you a scale of what the actual issue would be. I can't remember what the exact figure was off the top of my head. Every year we get a massive number of catalogue queries, how to find books, where to find books, what is a journal article, where do I look for journal articles, etc. You know yourselves. But as a result of getting all of these queries and highlighting that students just don't understand the basic process of like having to look for a book either on a PC or on their phone and then going physically to the shelves looking for that book and then bringing it downstairs. Sometimes they just expect to look at the catalogue and it appears in front of them in the library. Obviously that's not the case. So that's one resource we made. For example, another is how to like search for a journal article. We've gone on to expand that to like tips for reading journal articles, referencing queries. We have a very good content of videos on our YouTube channel at the library, and it's something that we're continuously adding to. Photocopying and printing and scanning is always up there on the highest number of queries recorded, but our previous system, when I joined, was absolutely abysmal. We had a standalone scanner and then printers that were fairly old-fashioned at this stage, and the scanner was an absolute pain. But ITD upgraded their printing system to MFDs in summer of 2019, and like I said, this wasn't a direct result of peer advisors, but at least we have relations with ITD. We can go and show them these queries and say, look, there's thousands of queries here related to the printers. It's not just a case of how do I print or where are the printers. There is something wrong there. So for example, just this year, as a result of a COVID measure, they had like automatic print enabled. So, you know, students are going to send the same document 3 or 4 times. They get charged 3 or 4 times for that, so that was an issue. So I have pretty good relations with my counterpart in ITD. We would meet quite regularly and exchange feedback on she has students working for her, I have students working for me. What can we do to kind of help each other out? So I suggested disabling that auto print because students were in the library, COVID is dead, but sure, that was disabled. Just another practical example. So in terms of promoting library services, I mentioned already, I'll try and encourage the students to get involved in our social media campaigns and in the creation of videos. So these are 2 video resources or segments that they were involved in this year. So one was a rehash of a 2020 resource, just updating new and returning students on policies, guidelines, what to expect in the library, very practical. And the second one here, which was part of ULTV, which was an initiative to promote our open days back in, I think it was November? No, not November. In the spring, somewhere anyway. And what we had was basically 3 or 4 of the peer advisors delivering key information in various locations around the library to try and replicate a library tour for students and basically highlight the Glucksman Library as a unique selling point for UL, which it definitely is. This is a new service that we trialled this semester. So to try and see would it gain traction with students, we came up with the idea of offering these EndNote online drop-in clinics. So one of our peer advisors, who was a PhD student, Cleena, she was up to the task of really getting stuck into EndNote online, upskilling in it. We offered them for 5 weeks, promoted it heavily, like on our own social media channels, on other UL accounts, plastered the place in posters, hadn't a single attendee at any of the 5 weeks, delivered twice a week, didn't have a single person at any of the sessions, but we did get maybe 2 or 3 email queries. So we'll have to see, do we deliver that again next year? Semester 2 probably isn't the time for it, maybe semester 1, we'll see. But just as a show of hands, does anyone here work with students in the library or have students working for them? Like, yeah. Okay, so we have a good few. So you probably know it's always really handy to have a team of students around the place. And one of the benefits with, with the peer advisors is that they're here with us for an extended period of time. This year we had them for both semesters. In previous years it might be 7 to 9 weeks. So we get a feel for the students. You'll know who's customer service oriented, who's got an eye for detail, who's just handy for lifting boxes. You'll get to know those students, and if that's the case, we can redirect them where necessary when projects occur. So say, for example, we had the Irish Survey Student Engagement was run at the university this semester, so we had a couple of the students actively encouraging students to complete that survey and boost our completion rate. We have one student currently involved in the digitisation project with technical and digital services. We've had a couple of students on long-term and short-term collection movements with special collection staff and reader services, and then also with our Every Seat Counts library initiative. So I'm definitely over time now at this stage, so we'll call it a day at that. If anyone has any questions, I'll be around for a bit, or you can get in touch with me there. Thanks very much.